Some nights, the silence of the countryside can be peaceful. Other nights, it hides something you were never meant to see. That night, I felt something watching me, and I still can't escape it. Welcome to Eerie Road Tales, where we bring you the darkest, most unsettling true horror stories. Tonight, I'll take you through a night that changed my life forever. A night that left me questioning everything I thought I knew about reality. Stay with me as I reveal every chilling detail of what happened, and why it still haunts me to this day. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to Eerie Road Tales for more true horror stories every week. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. It was a cold autumn night, one of those evenings where the air feels sharp and the sky stretches endlessly above you. The stars shone brighter than usual, their light casting faint glimmers on the fields surrounding my farmhouse. It was the kind of silence I'd always treasured, isolated, peaceful, and far removed from the chaos of city life. But that night, the quiet felt unnatural, as though something unseen had pressed pause on the world. The farmhouse stood alone, a small, sturdy structure weathered by years of wind and rain. Beyond it stretched miles of open fields, their edges swallowed by the shadows of the distant treeline. That treeline had always felt like a boundary, a natural barrier between me and whatever might lurk in the darkness beyond. Tonight, though, even the trees seemed closer, their jagged tops cutting into the horizon like the spines of some great, looming beast. As I stepped outside, the chill in the air wasn't the biting kind that made you shiver. It was the kind that crept into your lungs, settling like a weight. I stopped on the porch, my boots creaking against the wood, and took a deep breath. The silence was complete. No wind, no rustling leaves, no distant calls of owls or coyotes. Even the usual hum of insects had vanished. It was as though the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break the stillness. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if it carried an unseen weight pressing down on my chest. I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself it was just my imagination. But as I scanned the open fields, I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being watched. It wasn't the kind of fear that came from seeing something with your eyes. It was deeper, more instinctual, a creeping awareness that prickled at the back of my neck and made the small hairs on my arms stand on end. The horizon was darker than usual, the faint glow of the moon barely illuminating the fields. I squinted into the distance, trying to make out shapes or movement, but all I saw was a wall of black. Still, the feeling of being observed didn't fade. It grew stronger, like an invisible presence was lingering just beyond my sight, watching my every move. The farmhouse groaned softly behind me, the kind of familiar sound that should have been reassuring. Instead, it made my stomach twist. Every creak and crack felt amplified in the oppressive quiet. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone, or something, standing behind me. But there was nothing. At least, nothing I could see. I stepped off the porch, my boots crunching lightly on the gravel path, and moved further into the yard. The sensation of being watched was almost unbearable now, a suffocating weight that made it hard to think clearly. I turned toward the treeline again, my eyes scanning for any sign of movement, but the shadows remained still. Too still. It was unnatural, like the world had been frozen in place. It was then that I realized the stillness wasn't just a lack of sound. It was a warning. Something was out there, just beyond the reach of the light. Something I couldn't see, but could feel. And whatever it wasn't waiting for me to notice. It was waiting for the right moment to make itself known. It started with a light in the sky. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another shooting star, something you'd see often on clear country nights. But this one was different. It didn't streak across the sky like normal. It stopped mid-air. Just stopped. My stomach tightened as I stared at it. It hung there, motionless, glowing faintly, almost like it was waiting for something. Then, without warning, it moved, darting sharply to the left, then to the right, and then back again. No shooting star could move like that. No plane, no drone, no satellite. I stood frozen on the porch, my eyes glued to the light as it danced across the sky, its movements sharp, erratic, and deliberate. It wasn't random, it was searching. For what, I didn't know, but every instinct in my body told me to go back inside, lock the doors, and pretend I never saw it. But I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the ground, as though some invisible force was holding me in place. That's when the sound started. It wasn't loud at first, just a low hum on the edge of my hearing, something you'd mistake for a passing thought. But as the light descended closer, the hum grew louder. It wasn't just a sound, it was a sensation. It filled the air, vibrating through my chest and rattling my ribs, as though it had bypassed my ears entirely and settled deep inside me. I clutched the porch railing to steady myself, trying to keep my breath calm, but the hum was suffocating. It made the air thick, like I was breathing underwater. My gaze was locked on the light as it dipped lower, its glow casting faint shadows across the empty field. It was brighter now, pulsing softly, almost rhythmically, as if it were alive. The hum matched its pulse, each beat reverberating through me, shaking the very ground beneath my feet. My heart raced, and I couldn't tell if it was from fear or the vibration crawling under my skin. That's when I felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Have you ever felt that? That sudden creeping awareness that someone or something is looking at you, even when you can't see them. It was like a weight pressing against my back, a presence that crawled up my spine and made the hair on my neck stand on end. I looked around, my eyes scanning the shadows of the tree line, but there was nothing there. At least, nothing I could see. The light moved again, lower now, its glow growing sharper, more intense. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. It wasn't fear holding me in place, it was something else, something I couldn't explain. The hum grew louder, almost unbearable, and for a moment, I thought my chest might burst from the pressure. The light seemed to notice me then, its glow shifting slightly, almost as if it was looking directly at me. The hum wasn't just a sound anymore, it was a presence. I could feel it pushing into my thoughts, peeling back my mind layer by layer. It wasn't natural. It wasn't human. It was something far beyond my understanding. If you're feeling the chills right now, take a moment to like this video and share it with anyone who loves a good horror story. Your support keeps us going, and trust me, this story is only just beginning. The light descended slowly, its movements unnervingly smooth, as though it was alive and calculating. I stood frozen, watching as it settled into the field behind my house, its glow illuminating the tall grass in an otherworldly shimmer. For the first time, I saw it clearly, a metallic object, not sharp like a machine but rippling, almost liquid in its texture. The way it reflected the faint moonlight made it seem like it was pulsing, breathing. It wasn't of this world. I knew that instantly. My grip tightened on the porch railing, my knuckles turning white as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. The hum was deafening now, vibrating through my entire body, making my thoughts foggy, almost fragmented. I wanted to run, to scream, but I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead, my voice locked in my throat. And then, the hatch opened. It was soundless, the way the craft parted, releasing a faint mist that spilled out onto the field. The mist glowed faintly, curling and twisting like it had a mind of its own. My heart pounded against my ribs as the first figure stepped out. They were tall, impossibly tall, their silhouettes humanoid but wrong. Their limbs were too long, their movements too smooth, almost liquid, just like the craft. And their forms didn't make sense. They flickered between shadow and light, as though reality itself was struggling to contain them. Every time I tried to focus on one, my vision blurred, like my brain refused to process what I was seeing. There were 3 of them, maybe 4, I couldn't be sure. They moved silently, their heads turning in unison, scanning the area like they were searching for something. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow as I pressed myself against the porch railing, praying they wouldn't see me. But deep down, I knew they already had. One of them turned in my direction, its gaze, or whatever it had instead of eyes, locking onto me. And that's when I felt it. It wasn't a physical look. It was deeper, invasive, like something was peeling back my thoughts, my memories, my very being. It wasn't just staring at me, it was inside me. I clutched my head, my nails digging into my scalp as I tried to fight it, but there was no escape. It rifled through my mind like pages in a book, and the more it searched, the heavier the pressure became. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred as tears streamed down my face, my mind screaming in silence as this thing invaded the deepest parts of me. It wasn't just looking for something, it was taking something, something I couldn't name but knew I'd never get back. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The being turned away, its attention snapping back to the craft, as though it had found what it needed, or decided I wasn't worth the effort. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the porch, gasping for air. But I couldn't take my eyes off them. They moved back toward the craft, their bodies still flickering between light and shadow, the mist curling around their feet like it was alive. As they disappeared into the hatch, the craft began to hum louder, the vibrations rattling the very air. The light pulsed brighter, so intense I had to shield my eyes, and then, with a sudden burst, it shot back into the sky, leaving nothing but an eerie silence in its wake. I sat there, trembling, my mind spinning with questions I knew I'd never have answers to. What were they? Why had they come here? And why did I feel like they weren't just observing, they were preparing for something? If this story has you feeling the chills, make sure you're subscribed to Eerie Road Tales so you never miss stories like this. Hit that bell icon to stay notified because there's always more to uncover. Just as suddenly as they came, they disappeared. The craft shot into the sky with an intensity that defied explanation. One moment, it was there, blazing with light, humming with an otherworldly energy, and the next, it was gone, swallowed by the stars. The silence that followed wasn't the comforting kind I'd known before. It was oppressive, heavy, as though the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for something more. I stayed there on the porch, my legs trembling too much to stand, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My mind raced to make sense of what had just happened, but the harder I tried to find logic, the further it slipped away. My body felt drained, like whatever presence had invaded my mind had taken more than I could ever understand. Even after the craft disappeared, the fear didn't leave. It clung to me like a second skin, sinking deep into my bones. I forced myself to move, staggering inside the house and locking the door behind me. It was a futile gesture, I knew that, but it gave me the illusion of safety. I double-checked every lock, drew every curtain, and sat in the dark, staring at the shadows that seemed to shift just out of sight. The house felt different, smaller somehow, as though the walls couldn't keep out whatever had been out there. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the wind sent a jolt of panic through me. My ears strained for the hum, for any sign that they might come back. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone, that somewhere, somehow, they were still watching me. That night, I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, their shifting forms, their piercing presence, the way they looked at me without looking at me. And the questions kept turning over in my mind. What were they searching for? Did they find it? Or had they only just begun? Even now, the memory lingers, etched into the corners of my mind. I don't go outside at night anymore. I keep the lights on, the curtains closed, and my phone within reach, though I'm not sure who I'd call if it happened again. The truth is, no one would believe me. No one could understand what it's like to feel that presence, to know that something out there is far beyond our comprehension. But if there's one thing I'm certain of, it's this: they weren't just passing by. They came here for a reason. And I can't help but wonder when, or if, they'll come back. I've spent every night since looking over my shoulder, wondering if they'll come back. That feeling, the weight of their presence, never truly leaves. Even now, as I sit here and share this with you, I can't help but feel like they're still watching, somewhere out there. If you're out there, watching, I hope you'll leave me in peace. But somehow, I doubt it. What do you think happened that night? Was it something beyond this world, or could it all have been a trick of the mind? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like this video and share it with others who love true horror stories. And make sure to subscribe to Eerie Road Tales for more unsettling tales like this one. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay safe out there. Because sometimes, the scariest part of the night isn't what you see, it's what sees you.